April 23rd, 2024 committee meeting of the Fairfield RTM. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get started, I just want to remind all the representatives that if you have any questions, I need you to put your name in the chat function. So on the bottom right of your computer, there's a little chat icon. You click on that and put your name in the chat that you want to be recognized. And that's how I'll see that you're speaking, and that's also the order I'll take you guys in, since I can't see everyone on the screen at one time. Let me see. Is Mr. Bishop here? We're going to start with our conservation director. He should be online.
Good evening.
Hi, how are you? We're going to talk about the withdrawal from the H. Smith Richardson Conservation Trust Fund account for seeding at Hoyden Hill. Can you just give us a little background on that?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me tonight on early in the agenda and getting this matter, keeping it moving with growing season and planting season in mind. I appreciate all the boards moving it forward on the agendas. Just briefly, the description of the project is one that started before my time in 2018, 2019. I didn't arrive here till 2021. The project was a joint effort with the Tucker Fund and the town, specifically the department. The project involved eradication of an invasive weed that was dominant in these two fields of Hoyden Hill open space under the Conservation Commission's jurisdiction. That was to use chemical treatment to eradicate the weed and then replant both sides of that field, if you're familiar, with native meadow mix and pollinator-friendly plants. That budget expired and was exceeded, so there are no funds left now that the mugwort is under control and virtually eliminated. There's no funding left to proceed with getting the project over the finish line and in the seeding. So my request is to expend some of the funds from the H. Smith Richardson Trust, given the original intent and of the fund to for use. That I thought that to continue and execute the project, that this would be a good source of funding, and I included the quote in a memo that I wrote to the commission dated February 12th of this year that summarizes what I ultimately just described. The request again is $19,780 that will take care of the original seeding and planting plan. And my last account balance, for the record, just to state, correct it on that memo, since it's earned more interest since February when that memo was generated. Current fund balance is $492,083.47 as of, I believe, March. Well, that's pretty much the project and the request in a nutshell. I'm happy to entertain any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Representative Georgiadis.
Hi, Drew Georgiadis, District 9. Hi, Tim. Nice to see you on WebEx. My one question, I know invasives are rampant. Given this money will establish the meadow, the pollinator pathway, going forward, how will we keep this meadow free or relatively free of other invasives?
Typically with invasive plants, they prefer disturbed areas. And once the native plants, meadow plants are established here, the invasive plants like mugwort and others typically don't stand a chance. Like I said, they prefer the disturbed areas, and that area was disturbed historically as a either corn or potato field, from what I was told.
I was more
That
talking from a budgetary standpoint.
Well, I guess financially, I don't anticipate any significant maintenance once it's an established meadow. Therefore, I don't expect any chemical treatment.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well,
Thank you.
and to that point, other typical maintenance operations fall within my department's operating budget. That is one of them. We do mow there at the end of the year in favor of songbirds and meadow species. So that's something that's already being done as far as maintenance of a meadow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Representative Ambrose was just saying that he's here present. Just make sure he doesn't have a question. Any other questions? Oh, Representative McDermott.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. I'm not sure who this would go to, if it's Tim or if it would be First Selectman Gerber. There are a lot of new members on the RTM. Could you maybe explain what this fund is set up to be used for?
I think Tim, I think you probably have a better idea of the rules around it. I don't have that offhand.
Can I just, Mr. Bishop submitted, I'm not sure if all members, I forwarded them later this afternoon. Representative Wackerman asked for a copy of the fund and how it was established with the town back in the 70s. That was forwarded earlier today, and I'll let Mr. Bishop expand on that. And there was also a question from Representative Cook-Littman that I sent to you late this evening. But I'll let you go on ahead and answer any other further, just in case they didn't see that, Mr. Bishop.
Thank you. I actually didn't get through it, honestly, all today. Again, I was out yesterday and I received that late this afternoon. I didn't have the chance to review it thoroughly, but overall, the intent, from my understanding in the past, it has to have obviously a conservation based to address a conservation based need. The only time I have ever made the request since I started was for the automatic gate at the Lake Mohegan Cascades open space. So that's kind of my understanding of the money.
Yeah, I only saw that response late today, and like right before I got on the meeting. I only got to the first page, and I was curious, does this need RTM approval? It looked like it stopped at the Board of Finance in the first paragraph, but I didn't get any further along. And my third question would be, should we try to keep this fund intact? Is there any possibility that we could have used, it's not a significant amount of money, could we have used some ARPA funding that is available to fund this? Would it qualify?
Selectman Gerber might have a better.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be reallocating ARPA funds if that is a concern, but it's not a lot of money. I think I was just reading through the backup, and I think it looks like it's basically very broad, anything related to conservation. So if I suppose if it's a real issue, we might be able to find it in the ARPA reallocation, but otherwise it seems like it's in line with what the fund's intended.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I don't have an issue with, it's not a lot of money, but, I think we've tried to add to that fund many times over the years during certain things going on. So $20,000 out of the ARPA funding would not make a dent in what's available right now.
Well, we're going to be spending all of that money, so either way.
Also, I could just point out, since I wrote the memo February 12th, that just in interest made almost $5,000, so which is about 20% of the request.
Any
And
other
also, Mark,
further-
just as a point, my recollection from my first go around with the request for funds for the gate, the trust fund manager, BNY Mellon, and maybe it would be stated in the document discussed from the 70s, but I believe I needed the three governing bodies as well as the Conservation Commission's approval to utilize the funds. So a total of 4 boards get to have this discussion.
Yeah, I just saw in the first, I don't know, paragraph or two that it kind of ended at the Board of Finance, and I didn't get any further, so I don't really know. It's probably correct. I was just curious if anybody knew the answer to that question.
All right.
I mean, can this money be used for anything else? Would you consider remediation of something conservation? I mean, this was remediation of this meadow, right? So is it any sort of remediation that would need to be done?
You mean like of PCBs?
Yeah, or PCBs or any, could this fund have been used to clean up any of the fill pile issues?
I don't know, Mark, but we didn't use it. So
I know we didn't use it. I know we didn't use it, but I'd be curious to know if we could have used some of that money for that purpose.
I mean, this is for conservation purposes, but so if we want to interpret it that way, we could talk to the attorneys.
It's just a thought. I mean, I'm not personally going to hold it up for $20,000.
I mean, how much is in the account, Tim, at this point?
At the March statement, I had $492,083.47.
I mean, we
Probably
probably want
higher.
to use this to acquire open space and things like that.
Right. That's why, if there were open space that were available somewhere that we would want to buy, I'd like to keep that money in the account for that and use, if there's $20,000 hanging around in ARPA funds, then we could, this is something that's shovel ready to go tomorrow, I guess, right, Tim? So I think it would be something, it would have to go back through all the boards, right? So, I mean, I don't want to hold it up because you said it is planting season, but it's just a thought.
All right. Thank you, Representative McDermott. Representative Brock.
Hey, Tim, how are you? I was just wondering, Doug Yellow Park is right next to that conservation area that we're talking about. Do you have any authority, or does conservation have any authority as it relates to Doug Yellow Park?
I do not believe so. I believe that falls under Parks and Rec, that driving range and ball field.
So conservation has no authority. So if anything happened in Duggiello Park, you guys wouldn't be apprised of that or weigh in any way, shape, or form?
Probably not, unless unless there was some known effect or potential effect on open space at that location.
Okay. And then secondly, there was talk a couple of years ago about getting goats, believe it or not, I can't believe I'm saying this, to graze in that conservation area. Do you know what happened with that idea? And is the mugworm that I guess we were so seriously considering eradicating, is that how what do you know the storyline on the whole goats? I'm just kind of curious.
I do know the storyline. That was I originated that idea, brought that forth before conservation and have their approval to use goats at that location. That would be a long-term solution, and the reason why it hasn't occurred yet is because I've been unable to locate a farmer to secure the lease agreement that was established and reviewed by the town council at the time. It's what I suspected in the first place was this part of the state. There's not as many farmers or goat herders as you would find in somewhere like Litchfield or Collin County. So it's a challenge right now, but the intent is in the two northern fields to use goats to eradicate the mugwort over a longer term period and avoid the use of chemical treatment on mugwort that was utilized in this project.
Well, we can probably talk offline, but there are 7 goats next to my property that are on Hoyden's Hill that could probably munch up some mugwort. But I'll connect with you after this meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk more about that. If it's that easy, then we definitely should talk.
They're there. I hear them every morning.
Thank you, Representative Brock. Representative Wackerman.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Through you to, I guess, Tim and.
Sorry, just Representative Wackerman, just to, if all representatives could just re-announce who they are when they begin to speak, that would, thank you.
Sure, Karen Wackerman, District 9. The reason I asked for a copy of the trust agreement was I think I'm in my 9th year on the RTM, and I think over the years, as is Mark, Representative McDermott, and he raised the same issues I was going to raise, really. I've always thought of that trust agreement, that H. Smith Richardson Trust, as a source of money to use to buy conservation land for the town. But it's true that in the actual trust agreement, it says it's for conservation purposes. So it's broader than that. And this isn't an inappropriate use of it. But I would I would be disappointed if we have to hit that trust up for maintenance and things that conservation would generally be doing. So I know this was probably an extenuating circumstance, but I would love it if the town could continue to think of that trust as a source of funds for buying land and having further conservation land in town and open space. So, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Beckerman. Are there any other questions or comments for Mr. Bishop regarding this item?
I would like
none.
to. Oh.
Mr. Gerber, go ahead and just announce yourself.
Yeah, I think Representative McDermott made a really good point, because I had never read this before, but we'll check. It is possible from the wording here that the RTM doesn't vote on this. It looks like it does say that the money can be released from the trust upon vote of the Board of Finance. So thank you for raising that, Mark. We'll check with Phil Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Gerber. Are there any other questions or comments regarding this item? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Bishop. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our next item. Julie DeMarco is online from our Director of Human and Social Services regarding the bus replacement for the Bigelow Center.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
Thank you. This is a bus grant we apply to approximately every 2 years. It covers 80% of the cost of a bus, a 12-seater bus. You might remember the last time we applied for this grant, it was 100% match. The COVID times are done, so we're back to an 80% match. The grant request is for $109,592, which is 80% of the cost of a bus. That's $136,990, and the town share is $27,398, which will come out of the senior center donations account. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. DeMarco regarding the item? Again, just put it in the chat. Seeing none. Oh, wait, Representative Esma.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Liz Esma, District 4. Hi, Julie. Thanks for coming. Nice to see you. So I see there's a 3% contingency, if you will, in the grant amount. And your confidence in the number, I read the answer. Have you taken the last purchase and then added a particular rate of inflation, or do you have a current price that represents $136,980? Just want to make sure we have some wiggle room there for an inflation.
I appreciate that. It's a formula in the grant application. So we want to replicate a bus that we have now, which is a 12-seater. We add an additional cost of $1,900. That's a plexiglass screen between the driver and the front seat. We started doing that with COVID, and we're going to continue doing that just, for flu season. But the estimate is pretty good. The price is, we haven't received the last bus yet, and the price of that bus has gone up significantly since we applied for it, from $69,000 to like in the 130s, but that was 100% cover. I'm confident in the numbers based on the grant application and the way the state does it. Could it go up? Yes. And that's something that we'll have to handle, whether it's coming back for an additional request or using additional donations.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
Sure.
Thank you. Representative Georgiadis.
Hi, Julie. Drew Georgiadis, District 9. For some of the new members, can you outline how many buses we have? Whether you make this request, you said you can apply every 2 years for the grant. Do you apply every 2 years for the grant? And what does our current fleet look like? Do they all need to be replaced, or just give us a quick summary? Thank you.
Thanks, I appreciate that. We have a fleet of 5 buses. A bus with this grant, we do apply every 2 years. With this grant, we rotate the oldest bus that is beyond its useful life, and the bus that we're replacing this time is a 2013 with 106,000 miles. When a bus is rotated out, it goes it goes to town departments to see if anybody could use a bus, and then it goes out for bid and the town sells it, and that money goes to the general fund. The buses are, the new buses, as we rotate them in, are in great shape. They all have wheelchairs, lifts. They're all 12-seaters, except the one we're waiting on is a 9-seater. We thought we would try and see what a smaller bus would do for the runs that are a little less crowded on those buses, because nobody likes to see a bus with one person on it. So I think I covered everything there.
That's great. Thank you very much for the summary. Good to see you.
Thanks for the question. You too.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding this item? Being none, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Yep. Moving on to item number 5 on our agenda, we have Bill Hurley, our engineer manager, and Mark Barnhart, our Director of Community and Economic Development, here regarding the Stratfield owner project donation from the Stratfield Association. Welcome. I'm not sure which one of you wants to speak first.
Well, I will. Good evening. Mark Barnhart, Director of Community Economic Development. So very briefly, this is to clarify past actions by town boards to specifically authorize acceptance of funds that have been donated by the Stratfield Village Association, funds that we've already received. So this would specifically authorize us to accept that donation, and more importantly, to apply those funds towards project costs. The project is substantially complete. We do have some bills to pay. This is to clarify past actions of the board so that we can both accept those funds that we've already received and then use them toward project costs. And that's it. There are no new allocations or funds being requested as part of this.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this item? Representative Steele.
Hi, Mark. Jeff Steele, District 3. Can you just explain a little bit more about the project that this is going towards and where it's at and what costs are and sort of what stage it's at?
Sure. This is the streetscape pedestrian enhancement project for the Stratfield Village Business District. It was funded in part by a state grant of $650,000. We also had these funds donated by the SBA, and then also monies that were allocated by the town for the project. This project was substantially completed earlier this year. So we're just in closeout, paying bills and closing out the project for the grant funds. And so that's pretty much it.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Representative Zezima.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Liz Esmer, District 4. Hi, Mark. We
Hi.
previously went through the same process for the $100,000 donation from Sacred Heart. Is that correct?
I'm not familiar with that one, but probably.
Yeah, I just don't know where that
I
was
wasn't
being
part of that
accounted
project.
for. Yeah, I wasn't sure where that was being accounted for. So, we have two buckets of donations. One is SVA, one is Sacred Heart. And I just don't recall off the top of my head that we did this exact same thing for them. But I assume it's now embedded in the financials.
Yeah, the commitment was for this project to make streetscape and pedestrian enhancements to the Stratfield Four Corners was a donation from SBA. I'm sure a portion of those dollars originated with SHU, but the donation was made on behalf of the Stratfield Village Association. There is no separate line item or source from SHU directly.
All right, so that number
for this project
may include both. I'll follow up
Yes.
on that with SVA. All right, thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions regarding this item? Seeing none, I just want to personally, being that's in my neighborhood, I just want to thank the Stratfield Village Association for all that they do for our neighborhood. They're a great organization that really helps out the Stratfield community and really contribute to the town. So I appreciate that. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to agenda items 6 and 7. Do we have Mr. Marsilio on here? I wasn't able to check that yet. Well, yep, he should
I'm
be
here.
on here.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. So actually, we have you lined up for several items. We're going to start with the Fairfield Beach Road Pump Station Force Main, or unless you think it's better to cover all the items together.
Well,
6 through 6.
whatever your pleasure is, I can speak to all of these projects. And
Okay, let's start with items 6 and 7, the Fairfield Beach Road Pump Station Force Main.
okay. Well, good evening. Thank you for having me, and I am here to speak to all of the capital requests here on behalf of WPCA and DPW and engineering. This first item from page 7 for the force main on Fairfield Beach Road is linked at the hip with item, I think, number 11 on page 7, which is the pump station itself. So there's two parts to that project. These pump stations were evaluated and identified quite a while ago by our consultants at WPCA. They were rated, and the consultants gave us an evaluation of what should be done and when. Since then, we have hired an engineering firm to begin design on these two components of this project. This is the pipe work that the pump station pumps into. The pump station itself is 65 years old. It's past its useful life, and it is on Fairfield Beach Road. And as we all know, that salt environment, flooding environment, all of that wreaks havoc with our capital facilities down there. So we will replace this line with a HD heavy duty PVC pipe, and eventually the pump station will be built and will be linked to the pump station, and that entire project in that area gets resolved.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this item? We'll also incorporate it. So on the warning, there are items 6, 7, and 10 and 11. If you have any questions regarding 6, 7, 10, or 11, just put it in the chat. Representative Georgiadis.
Hi, Bucky. Drew Georgiadis, District 9. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for that great tour a few weeks ago. I remember from our meeting that one reason we need to do, aside from that the pump station is outlive its useful life, is also a compliance issue. It's not in compliance with FEMA. Is that true?
Well, everything is in compliance until you try to renovate or enhance something. Just as a house on Fairfield Beach Road would go for a permit, to add to a home in that beach area requires you to adhere to all new codes, not only FEMA, but electrical codes and plumbing codes and all new codes. So yes, under the codes that exist today, that pumping station is deficient. So you're correct. And one of the problems and one of the expenses that we incur when we do this is the fact that we do have to adhere to FEMA, and it has to be at a level, an elevation that FEMA determines, along with all the ancillary portions of that pump station, like the generator. They would all have to be situated so that they are above a certain flood elevation. And that all entails increased costs. So that is why these are at these levels of expense.
You keep using the singular. Is it one pump station? I thought there were 2 pump stations down there.
Well, we are programming 3 pump stations. At this time, we are only asking for this one. As soon as we have more design work completed on the other pump stations and a more reliable number, we'll be coming before you again to ask you for your approval of those projects.
So the piping is the piping and the one pump station, and then there'll be more piping and more pump station and more piping and more pump station, or we'll do all the piping and then the station separately?
No, we will do the piping and the pump station in concert for each one.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Representative Desma.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Liz Desma, District 4. Hi, Bucky. Thanks
Hi.
for being here.
Thank you.
Question is a little more, global about the whole project. So in the backup, and it appears more than once, but on page 76, table 3 is an inflation, a formula across time that calculates rate of inflation. And across the top, you're looking at numbers, let's just say 1.5%. But the footnote is that, as an example, for years 1 through 5, you're using an 8% rate of inflation for each year. So I just wanted to understand how that formula works and if that's because some items are way out of the 3.5% rate that we're at presently.
Well, these matrices, the matrix is developed by our consultants, and we rely on them to forecast where they think the cost of components are going to go. And if they have been experiencing 8% in the last 3 or 4 years, which I think is entirely possible, knowing what we have been paying for capital equipment, I would prefer that they be realistic about it and give us a number that is realistic and forecasts what the marketplace is, rather than get halfway through the project and notice that we have to come back to everyone again and ask for more funding. So that's just an empirical assessment of what the marketplace is for these items.
Okay, so that inflation factor across the top line isn't actually expressed as a percent. Obviously, it's a formulation somehow, but you are looking at an 8% for the first 5 years. But they calculated that.
That's what we've accepted from our consultants. It will be what it will be. This isn't something that we can add arbitrary accoutrements to. It's a pump station, and it will be what is designed and whatever that design.
And what it costs at the end of the day. All right. Thanks very much, Bucky.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Mr. Marsilio will go on to items 8 and 9 on our agenda, phase 5 of the water pollution control facility inflow and infiltration program.
Okay. Okay. Again, we have consultants who have been engaged to determine what has to be done with the collector system. There are 3 parts to the WPCA. There is the treatment facility itself, there are the pump stations that are part of the collector system, and then there is the gravity portion of the collector system. By and large, the pump station piping does not have breaks or problems because they're under pressure. And as soon as there's an issue, you can immediately see effluent bubbling out of the ground. However, the gravity portion of the collector system is old. In a lot of places, we have collector portions of our town that are over 100 years old. And what has happened over the years, because of a lack of emphasis on the tightness of that system, is we have reports that are 8 or 9 years old that have demonstrated and indicated that more than 50% of the effluent that goes into that water treatment facility is not sewage. It is groundwater, it is infiltration from cracks and breaks and the like. And we are about to engage in a major rehab of the treatment plant. And it is important that we address this 50% of water that we're treating that shouldn't be in the system. Because why? Because we're gonna rehab that treatment facility, and it's going to be wearing out treating items that shouldn't be in the system, shouldn't be in the pipes. So that is the primary motivator of addressing this I&I. So the town has done some, I guess, 4 phases before this. They were rather perfunctory, but now it is time to address some of the more chronic and more and the worst portions of the system. And this is a 3-year request. This will take place in fiscal years 25, 26, and 27. And beyond that, there will be other requests as we try to determine what portions of town have those systems that are contributing the most to this excess effluent. So that's all I could say. It's critical to the operation of the plant. It's critical for the longevity of the components that we are going to be putting in the plant, that we're not treating 50% more material than we're supposed to.
Thank you. Representative Carroll.
Yeah, Chris Carroll, District 8. Bucky, I was the one who missed the tour, so hopefully I'll get over there to meet you soon. If water's getting into the system that you don't need to be treating, is there any estimate of how much water is leaking out of the system into areas you'd prefer not to have that water go?
Well, yeah, that's a valid question. If it can get in, it can obviously get out. But more often than not, the water comes in from groundwater. And so when you have a pipe and you have groundwater surrounding it, what happens? The pressure isn't to get out. The pressure is to get in.
Okay.
The groundwater gets into the pipe. And that is the infiltration portion of this. The inflow is another thing altogether. The inflow is people who connect their sump pumps to their sewer line or to the sewer line. That's what we call inflow. The infiltration is just that, pressure from the outside to get into the pipe.
Okay.
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
I'm just, Representative Wolf, can you please mute yourself?
I am muted.
No, you're not.
No,
Let me see.
thank you. I'm sorry about that. This Representative Carroll, any additional questions? Now Representative Carroll's not on mute. Okay. Are there any other questions?
Jay, you got to mute.
Jay, keep unmuting yourself. Thank you. I think, okay, we're going to move on to items 12 and 13 on our agenda regarding the water pollution control facility plant equipment improvements. I think that's an additional, so that line item.
Madam Moderator, I believe there's another question. Shay?
Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Shea. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Chris Shea, District 2. Regarding the force main replacements and the equipment replacements, have you considered capacity in those replacements? In other words, is the force main going to be increased in size to handle
potentially more capacity with all the new development that's going on in town?
Well, in the areas that these three projects are in, Fairfield Beach Road, I believe, is built out. So that's the first project we're looking at. And as I said before, the other two projects aren't completely designed yet. So those factors are considered when we design the force mains. The more important portion of that would be the pump station itself. The force mains are generally 6 or 8 inches in diameter. They're under pressure constantly. And the weakest link there is obviously the ability to pump whatever the pump station receives. So I wouldn't worry too much about the force mains. We will be vigilant about the capacity of the pump stations. They are scalable. And in the event there were a moment that the capacity to pump was deficient, we could always add a larger pump, more pumps. That's once the wet well is in and the electricity is there and all of the guts of the project are in place, that becomes not that big of a problem to address.
Thank you very much. And just to follow up on that, so with the pump stations, you had indicated that the first one that's going to be replaced has exceeded its useful life, and I think you said it's 65 years old. I'm wondering what the design longevity is for the new system that's being put in. How long can we expect it to last?
Well, the design criteria is for these items is generally 50 years.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Georgiadis.
Hey, Bucky, Drew Georgiadis, District 9 again. I had asked you about the pump stations on Fairfield Beach Road, but can you tell me how many pump stations there are town-wide? And will all those pump stations need replacement?
Of course I can.
I knew you'd be able to.
There's 8 pump stations. The 3 that are have been prioritized will have to be replaced along with their force mains. We have just recently authorized an examination of the other 3 that are programmed to be examined. So I cannot tell you exactly whether or not they have to be replaced at this point. The 3 that we are working on that are in your packet that you see the design money devoted to, those we know have to be replaced and raised, and because they're in the floodplain. The other ones are not so much. That would be just a matter of wear and tear. And, you know, we're looking for that other phase to become real in 5 or 6 years. So as we go along and as we are rehabilitating these pump stations, we will have a pretty good handle on just what you have to do for the rest of them. And at that time, we can talk intelligently about costs and exactly what has to be done. At this point, I'm not ready to share that because we haven't gotten there yet.
No, I appreciate that. I know 3 are in my district, District 9, and then I was multiplying 3 times 10 districts, and I was starting to get nervous. But if there are only a total of 8, then that is less worrisome. So thank you very much.
Well, but one thing you should know, there's 8, but one has already been done, the one on Sport Hill Road.
Okay.
on Jefferson Street. So there's 7 more that we have programmed.
And we're budgeting for 3 right here.
You are budgeting for 1.
Oh, 1, right. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Representative Rock.
I just have a question. As I represent, a northernmost district, are there any plans to move the network further north? So people like myself or people in the northern area of Fairfield can enjoy some of what people in the southern part of Fairfield enjoy. So is there any way or any discussion about expanding north? Just love to
So
get your thoughts.
The short answer is no.
Mhm.
Generally, sewers get extended to those areas where septic systems fail. And in those areas of town that have larger lots, zoned larger lots, the need is not critical. If the need were critical and there were a number of septic system failures, that would have to be on the table and discussed. But as of this moment, I have not heard of any chronic problems in any areas beyond those that are sewered. But it doesn't mean that there aren't any. I just haven't heard of them, and that would generally come to us through the health department.
Interesting. So I guess it goes without saying that people, obviously sewers come about in a town, and it seems odd to me because I grew up on the South Shore of Long Island, where I had a very small plot of land. My parents did, and there was septic there, and then the Southwest Sewer District came in, and everybody went on sewer. But it wasn't because septics failed. It was because they decided that it was a better idea to get everybody on sewer. And so I guess I'm just trying to understand. I mean, the southern part of Fairfield, is it prone to septic failure?
Well, I could give you the history of all of that. I don't know if you want to hear it, but in Long Island, for you to know, that program was generated because of the aquifer being polluted by the septic systems, not because they were overflowing. It was because they had drainage that was just too good. And all of the sewage started to pollute that aquifer, as did that big landfill that you have out there. So the answer to that was to put tight sewers in there and process the effluent.
Mm-hmm. So the idea of just not extending the network is because people in northern Fairfield can sort of handle a better septic scenario, and so therefore it just makes sense not to extend the network. Is that fair to say? Or
yes, because you have room, because the lots are larger, you have an ability to repair the septic systems. In the smaller lots, there was no way to expand them. And as of 1975, any house in Fairfield that was built had to indicate on their site plan that they had 100% capacity to enlarge their system. So in other words, whatever their leaching area was had to be duplicated somewhere else on that property for them to get a building permit from the health department. So that's been addressed for many years now.
Mm-hmm. Does the same thing sort of flow through with just getting city water, for instance? I mean, I have well, so is that the same setup scenario?
Well, you know, in my past life, in another life, I was a director of capital and planning and engineering for Aquarion Water Company. And I could tell you that those decisions, being a private utility, are generated financially. It's economics.
Right.
The longer the run between two users, the less financially attractive it becomes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a house, if you have a road that has 50 by 100 lots, you'll run a new water line. But when you get to the 3-acre zone or 2-acre zone, it's not as feasible. And what has happened is they have asked that the homeowners share in the cost of the extensions, and Pura has approved that.
Mm.
So you can get it if you want it, but you'd have
Right.
to pay for it.
Right. It's the same with utilities. You know, it's the same thing. We get fiber last. Obviously, it makes more sense for fiber companies to come. Anyway, I'm done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Representative Donnie.
Hi, Representative Nancy Donnie from District 6. Through you, Madam Moderator, to Mr. Marsilio. Hi, Mr. Marsilio. You and I communicated over the winter about the basketball hoops, so thank you for that. You might remember me.
Thank
But
you.
today's question is, and I'm brand spanking new, as you might know. So the EPA recently, in April 10th, I think, came out with the new mandate for municipal water places to reduce the forever chemicals, the PFAS kind of chemicals in the treatment of water. And I see a lot of money being asked for. Is that already contemplated in your redoing of all these treatment plants?
So the treatment plant that addresses that issue is up on Route 58 by the Hemlock Reservoir.
Mm-hmm.
Fairfield water treatment facility that's owned by Aquarion. That is really their domain.
Oh, okay.
There is billions of dollars that are going to be pumped into water systems nationwide to address this issue.
Right, but you won't be coming to us for money for
No,
that.
that
Okay.
is what we call clean water.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding this? I think we still have like 12 and 13 to discuss technically, although it seems like we've covered a lot. Was there anything else regarding the WPC, the water pollution control facility? Did we cover it all, Mr. Marsilio? Anything else you want to add? Any other questions regarding items 6 through 13, just because they're kind of all grouped together a little bit, just in case anyone thought something away?
Well, you might.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Mr.
No, I mean, you might want to hear a little bit about the largest one, which is the 18.67 million.
So 12 and 13 agenda earlier.
Okay, so the genesis of this was last summer's evaluation of the organization, the operation, and the assessment of the facility. The consultant was selected by WPCA, and the town shared in that assessment of those three items. And the consultant that was in charge of this assessment was Woodard and Curran, and they prioritized the needs of the plant. What we have done is we have taken just the high priority items, the items that they targeted as being the most needy and would have to be done immediately. because they were either ready for failure or they were out of compliance and the like. So what we're asking this evening is for you to approve that $18,670,000 that will address that portion of a $31 million program. $35 million program, which has components in it that are medium priority and low priority. So this we need to do right away. Let's see what happens with the remainder of the components that have been targeted for to be addressed, and we'll go from there. Right now, this money will be needed for fiscal years 25, 26, and 27. And the remainder will be from 28 to 31 will be the requirements for that.
It's like park in the driveway or on the street tomorrow.
Are there any other questions regarding this item? For Selectman Gerber, I think you go back on mute.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
You don't like listening to my father-in-law?
Representative Estarita.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Ken Estarita, District 1. Yeah, I just have a quick question. And maybe this is more for Selectman Gerber. Have all these expenditures, these funds, has all this been adequately budgeted for? I guess that's my question.
Yes, these have been budgeted for, and the WPCA has a fund built up over the years to pay the debt service on these. So it's budgeted within the WPCA line item.
Yeah. Is their fund? I know there've been some questions about, you know, the extent of the work that's going to be needed to be done and the value of their fund. But are we confident that their fund is going to be able to cover these expenditures down the road?
Well, we're confident they'll be able to expend what hopefully you're going to approve next week. But the after that and the amount of work and the value of the work that has to get done, I wouldn't. I think there is a concern, and it's been discussed, quite a lot, that those expenses, the bonding for those expenses, or whether they're paid, out of fund balance or whatever, may have to be split with the town. This is, we've got a very, very large capital plan in front of us that basically has to get done. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding this item? I have the town of Fairfield has a question. I don't know who that is.
Sorry, I thought I had changed it. For some reason, it's saying that for my who I am.
I'll take you as a good representative of the town.
That's because I hosted a meeting, and now forever I'm considered to be the town, no matter what I do. Thank you, Madam Moderator. Josh Garskoff, District 5. I'm not the town. I'm just a representative of the town. So on that matter of possibly splitting some of the future costs between the town and the WPCA, that's an interesting dilemma, right? Because as we discussed earlier, that not everybody's covered by the WPCA. My neighborhood is on sewers. It just happens to be we're connected to Bridgeport sewers, so we pay Bridgeport sewer fees. So there's a lot of different scenarios here where I think we're an outlier in that way. But I just want to put out there that this is a concern for people, I think, on all sides of that fence, including the one that pays to another town, another city, a very exorbitant cost of septic sewer fees. So
Right.
I just want to flag it. Just because that fund may run low on funds is not a reason for other people to fund it. And I think the decision where that dividing line is between the town and the WPCA funding it should be based on what feels right in terms of the responsibilities of those entities, as opposed to where the funds may be lacking, because those funds can be made up for with increased sewer fees on some level, just like town can charge higher taxes. So I just want to raise that point.
No, that point was discussed at length at the Board of Finance meeting, and that is, it's both probably a discussion that includes a lot of philosophical, probably debate about, can you grow the grand list for the town without, sewers, and there, a proper balance needs to be struck on that, because and we do need to do a rate study and make sure that we understand where our rates are versus the market and all that. So, yeah, no argument there. And that, I think, the Board of Finance was talking about kicking off that argument. I believe there was some discussions about having that starting in the late August, maybe early September or something like that. But thank goodness it's not really an immediate, it should not impact these particular projects.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on this item? Just waiting a minute because there's a delay. Seeing none, thank you regarding these items. We're going to move on to item 14 on our agenda. I believe Mr. Marsilio and Mr. Hurley might be presenting on this regarding the tide gate repairs and replacement project.
Well, I gave Bill the night off, so I'm going to, but I know he's listening because he loves to listen to these things. He's always plugged in. But, and he's welcome to join me anytime he'd like. But this is, again, we did a shoreline assessment of all the tide gates in town. We have conducted all of these evaluations, and for the first time now, we have programs for paving, sidewalks. You'll see traffic signals, tide gates, everything done by third parties, giving us their best expertise and guidance in this. This is, again, a 3-year program. What the tide gates do, if you don't know, are those gate valves that prevent water from coming into the storm system and flooding upstream. And once a storm is over, they open up automatically and they permit the evacuation of flooding to occur. So that is the principal component of the tide gates. We have tide gates that we have to examine now, that we have to excavate because they are just, they're under siltation. They're obviously not working, and they haven't worked for perhaps decades. This is an incredibly important component of flooding, and that's why we took this opportunity to do this evaluation. And so for 25, 26, and 27, this is the amount we're going to have to dedicate to that. There'll be 2 more phases in 28 and 29, but as I just said, we're working in the blind on a couple, 6, I think, out of 36 tide gates before we can do a true evaluation of what has to occur to make them operable again.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this item? Seeing none, we'll move on to the traffic signal improvement project, item 15 on our agenda. Mr. Marsilio again.
Okay, we did a traffic signal evaluation. We have, depending on how you want to count them, we have 15 to 18 traffic signals in town that we maintain. Many have disparate components and mechanisms that operate the traffic signals. What this goal is here is to standardize everything that we have in the controller boxes for the lights themselves. We want to go away from what is called a detector check, which is a wire that's buried in the asphalt or concrete that is triggered when you drive over it. So if you're sitting at a red light and you pull up to it, and magnetically that wire senses that a car is there, and it begins the sequence of changing those signals. And we want to do that because the freeze thaw cycles snap those, and they're not reliable. And so now you'll see that there are cameras or detectors. They're not cameras that are going to take your picture or anything, but they are detectors to detect the cue of cars waiting to turn and lined up to go through an intersection. We also have a safety component, a couple safety components baked into this improvement. We will be putting in new masts and posts, like you see the state highway does, solid masts and solid poles. We will have attenuators on these traffic signals so that if an emergency vehicle were approaching an intersection, it would automatically turn all the lights red and stop any traffic entering that intersection so that an emergency vehicle can navigate its way through. And the third thing we're going to incorporate into this system is batteries. We've had a number of occasions where we've had power outages and chaos. So there'll be a battery backup system incorporated into all of these new modernizations. The fourth thing we're going to do that isn't so much a safety item, but is a operational item, and that is we will have a system, what we call a SCADA system for this, that will reside in the engineering office in Town Hall, that will let whoever is the responsible party there, probably the chief engineer or whoever he delegates, know when there's a light out, know when there's something malfunctioning. There's nothing more frustrating than to not have a turn signal arrow on or the like. So this will be bringing us into 2025 with our traffic signals and facilitating what we feel is a safe and efficient and managed program for the traffic signals.
Thank you. Representative Wolk.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Jay Wolk, District 5. Hey, Bucky, thanks for that tour we did the other day, last week. I appreciate it. It was great. Anyway, so I just hear, because I remember when Bill did we saw the plans for Kings Highway. Bill showed us, and one of the things he did is he put a turn signal at the intersection of where Firestone is on that street to make the left to go towards Pepe's. But anyway, is that what's going to be? So he said there's going to be studies going on through the town. I mentioned a few other traffic signals that we can do this at. We should. Is that something that you just mentioned that's going to be in the plans to do?
Well, once the controllers are in and everything is new and they're programmable, we could do that right from Town Hall if we had to.
That's great. All right. Thanks for everything. Thanks for everything you do. Appreciate everything.
Happy to do it. You're welcome.
And I'll unmute Marcy.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Marsilio? Representative Shea.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Yes, just out of curiosity, does this include any of the pedestrian signals for at the crosswalks?
Yes.
Okay, great. And then has it been talked about with the new Safe Streets initiative, and is any of that been implemented into this new plan?
Well, look, the Safe Streets is going to be implemented into everything we do. We're going to be talking about sidewalks and paving in a second. And the first selectman has made this a priority. And so anything that we do, any of these projects that we do that have that touch traffic and transportation are all going to be evaluated with those components as we are able to incorporate them. So, it's front and center with everyone working on this, and wherever we can make an improvement, we will. We'll make connectivity with sidewalks. We'll make, bikeways where we can. We're working with the state now on Post Road, and we're targeting other areas for our initial safety improvements. You'll be hearing about them soon on the way down to the beach and the like. So there are a lot of moving parts. There's as you can see, there's a lot of work that we're launching right now that we know has languished, has not been addressed for a long, long time. So if we're going to do it, we want to do it right. We want the town to be safer. We want this town to be more friendly to other modes of transportation. And so, yes, we are looking at all of that. And when we talk about the traffic signals, the buttons for pedestrians and handicap issues and all of that will be incorporated. Some of that's by law, but quite frankly, it's the right thing to do, so we're going to be doing it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding the traffic lights? Seeing none, last item for you, Mr. Marsilio, is the sidewalk accessibility upgrade project.
So we have sidewalks and the roadway accessibility, right? 17 and 18, is that correct?
17 and 18, correct.
Okay.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, 16. Agenda item 16.
Oh, I see. Okay. Fine. So that is sidewalks. Again, we had a third party come in and evaluate every sidewalk in town. There's 150 some odd miles of sidewalks. They prioritized them for us. And the program has just started. It seems like, unfortunately, the most expensive repairs are the Bluestone in Southport. The need for this is highlighted by the fact that we have had a rise in falls and suits against the town. And so we engage in this study. This request is, again, a 3-year request, 25, 26, and 27. There is a whole evaluation of every foot of sidewalk in town, and that's what we expect to try to address. That's another safety issue. We've had women pushing their baby carriages, and the baby carriage will tip over because of a brick or a root or something. And after I'll tell you this, after trees and branches and sightline issues, which is all in that area of our world, and potholes, sidewalk complaints are the highest that we receive. And if you go out and look, you'll see that most of the time they're really legitimate. And once we know that there's a problem and we've been advised of it, we are obligated to fix it, or we don't have any way of defending ourselves in a lawsuit. So that's what this is. We had consultants do this for us, and for you to know, well, we'll get into the roadway piece of this next, but this is for extant sidewalks. This is not for new sidewalks. These are the sidewalks that we have in place that need work, need attention. You'll see it happening on Knapp's Highway right now, and in Southport on Harbor Road and all through that area there, where because those roads are so narrow, unfortunately, people parked on those sidewalks. And I've had a meeting with the police chief, and we're of one mind on this, that they can't do that anymore. So anywhere in town where people have two tires on a sidewalk, they're going to get ticketed. And we can't be repairing these and having people destroying them because they want the convenience of parking on the sidewalk. So that's where we are with all of this. I would appreciate you being vigilant also, and if you see this occurring, to advise the police department, and they know that they should be going out and tagging these people who violate that law.
Okay, thank you. Representative Ratsky.
Hi, Pierre Ratsky, District 10. Thank you for that. I have a question specifically about Southport, which I know you mentioned. There's a stretch right next to the Pequot Library on Westway Road, which is really bumpy, especially for any pedestrians who have mobility issues, or like you mentioned, mothers pushing strollers. People often park there as well for library events. I think I've heard, I'm not sure if this is true, that it's protected as a historic. There's some sort of historic protections around that sidewalk, so it's hard to repair. Is that in the plan? Is that in the future plan? Can you speak to that stretch at all?
Yes, I don't have the map in front of me now, but if look, I'm telling you, this is a big program in Southport, so I'm almost certain that would be addressed. If it's broken and it's hazardous, it's in the plan, it's in the program, because we're bringing trailer loads of bluestone in. That is going to occur all summer long now. It is a major component of our first effort in the sidewalk rehabilitation program. So yeah, all down Harbor Road, Rose Hill, all around the corner, down Pequot. That's all on the plan. I don't know exactly at what point on Pequot you're speaking of, but I'm pretty certain if it's damaged or unsuitable or unsafe, it's in the program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative Georgiadis.
Drew Georgiadis, District 9. Hi, Bucky, me again. Westway is the part that goes under the railway track, I think, that Pierre, like on the corner. Anyway, my question is, I'm glad you've been speaking to the police chief. Have you had a discussion on what kind of fines and what kind of tickets this is going to be? Because a $70 parking ticket is not going to be deterrent. And if they're causing thousands of dollars of damage, have you discussed what will be a deterrent?
I think there's an ordinance right now that he is ready to enforce. And if it's not adequate, there might have to be a different kind of penalty that is a civil penalty for the damage that they incur by doing that. But right now, I know that the first selectman will be eager to put this in his newsletter and advise people. And this happens all over town, by the way. It's not just in Southport. You'll see this on Reef Road. You'll see it on Grassmere Avenue. You'll see it in a lot of places because people are worried that their cars are going to get hit, especially on a narrow road. But we can't have that.
No, I'm in total agreement, but it has to be a deterrent. And we've discussed that with noise ordinances. We've discussed that with lots of ordinances and lots of laws, that the amount needs to be a deterrent and not just a slap.
But you know, Drew, I don't know what the fine is. I'll ask him and I'll tell him there's a concern, and I'll give him your name that it be enough to deter this from happening. But
Could you just
that's beyond my
go through the moderator and let us know for the have the police chief, or you get back to us so we all know.
Mr. Murphy, give me that information. That would be great.
Okay,
and I'll forward it to the body.
Great, thank you very much.
Thanks. First Selectman Gerber has a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to, and if Bucky already said this, I apologize, but in the you know, what people call the waterfall, but the capital planning worksheet that we do, there's a line item, Beta Sidewalk Capital Improvement Plan. The total there is $7 million. So what John just you know, is requesting is the first 3 years, and then there's 2 years after that, $920,000 for the per year for the last 2 years of the program, totaling $7 million. And that's the first thing I wanted to mention. The second thing is in terms of issues that people see, it looks like we are going to be able to go back to the Q Alert system that we used to have for routing claims. There's been a lot of dissatisfaction from both the public and department heads on the new system that's embedded in the current website. So I believe hopefully soon we'll be able to embed Q Alert back into the website and then be able to keep track a little bit more systematically of issues of traffic, and you know, and we'll get the word out there and do tutorials with people, let them know how to file those complaints.
Thank you, First Selectman Gerber. Representative Rock.
Hey, Bucky. Do you I know there's been a website change, and do you feel that people are getting to your department, and they're getting serviced correctly? Do you feel that everything is working right in your world?
Well, I'll answer that by saying this. We get over 3,000 complaints a year, and we address every single one of them. Now, if there's 4,000 out there and 1,000 people don't know how to use the website or don't know how to make a complaint, there's not much we can do about that. But what we get, and they can call it in on a telephone if they want, they can just call the Public Works Department. We have wonderful administrators down there who are all over this, and these things get addressed every day. Sometimes people aren't happy with the decisions. It's not a town tree; it's your tree. You know, it's out of our jurisdiction, but we do address every single complaint. So on our end, I believe that we are servicing the public to the extent that we know they have a complaint. That's all I could say about that.
Are there follow-ups to service requests?
Just regarding the sidewalks, because that's the item that's before us right now, the sidewalks. So, Mr. Marsilio will be in front of us tomorrow regarding the budget. So if that's in regards to that, or we can take this offline. But if it's regarding the sidewalk, continue.
All right, good stuff. Thanks, Marcy. I'm done with my question.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding the sidewalk? Seeing none. Mr. Marsilio, I think you were mentioning about the roads. That's not on our agenda, the paving. I think that didn't get passed through one of the bodies before us. So we don't have the roads on our agenda at this point. I'm sure that'll come before us.
That's right.
It's not.
The Board of Finance was looking for something. Yeah, so.
Right. The Board of Finance hasn't passed it yet, so I'm sure we'll, I'm not sure when the Board of, but that's not on our agenda right at this moment. But I think we're all set for today. But as I said, we'll see you tomorrow regarding the budget and in person. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Items 17 and 18 are on our agenda, are the amendments to the tax relief for the elderly and the disabled homeowners ordinance and the ethics ordinance, and they continue to be just held in LNA, so we're not discussing them right now. We're going to adjourn in a minute to our committees. I just want to make sure that everyone has the phone numbers to call in. Since we're all via WebEx, we all have to call into the numbers that are at the bottom of your agenda. I will humor everyone now and read off all the phone numbers if you would like, just to make sure. If you're legislation and administration, 667-776-9044. Education and recreation, 720-820-1221. Public health and safety, 339-209-6014. Public works and planning, 516-597-9432. And finance, 518-418-1465. I just want to remind the chairs to record the meeting. And we'll adjourn to committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy. Paparazzi says thanks.
Thank you, Marcy.